Hello, it's Ruby, and today I wanted to do a more chatty video, just reflecting a little bit on self-care and the rain. It's been raining on and off all day and I love it. It makes me feel like it's Christmas, mainly also because I'm burning a Christmas candle. Well, I was until very recently. Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a more chatty video. I want to talk to you a little bit about how my perspective on self-care has changed during this last year, but especially during lockdown. I have become so much more aware of the benefits of looking after yourself. I am going to be honest, I didn't really do that before. That wasn't something I thought about, and so I wanted to chat with you about like the difference in that opinion, what my thoughts on self-care are now, and actually running through the things that I do on a daily basis or weekly basis to make sure I am looking after my self-care, like actionable things you could do too. Oh my gosh, the rain. But before we jump into that, I want to let you know that today's video is very kindly sponsored by Unite Students. Unite Students is a student accommodation brand, but it does more than just provide accommodation to students. They really aim to foster a sense of community. They call this Homes for Success. They provide Homes for Success. So that's providing support and facilities and resources like their app and their blog to actually help students to do as well as they can do. Basically, Unite Students wants to let you know that they are sharing resources, continuing to share resources over the summer to like all students. So this is mainly on their blog, which is called The Common Room, where they share loads of really key advice, and it's a really great resource for students. So I'm going to leave that link down below. So thank you so much, Unite Students, for sponsoring today's video. I think I'm going to start from the beginning with this because 2 years ago when I was at school, 3 years ago, oh my gosh, I mean, I know people spoke about self-care to me, and when someone asked me, you know, oh, do you think self-care is important? I would have said, yes, of course self-care is important. You should look after yourself. That's essential. You know, if you don't look after yourself, then you can't be productive. You can't do the things that you want to do if your mental and physical health isn't as good as it could be. But even though I said this, and even though when younger students come to me and say they were feeling burnt out, and when I could see that they weren't giving themselves the support that they needed, I'd always make this huge point of like, you need to make sure you're looking after yourself. And yet when it came to me, I just wasn't doing that. This sounds so silly, but I had this belief that I just didn't have enough time for self-care. It felt like there weren't enough hours in the day for me to sit down for half an hour at the end of the day and just do something because I like doing it. Because it always felt like I had so much studying to do. There was always things to do for YouTube or pumpkin productivity or head girl related duties. It just always seemed like there was something to do, and it just didn't seem like a productive use of my time for me to sit there and read a book for pleasure or watch a film or, you know, do something which is typically relaxing. I do that over the summer within reason, but during the academic term I just didn't do that. I didn't make myself the time to do that because I didn't fully appreciate how necessary that was. And so even though, yes, I was getting all of this stuff done, even though I was studying long hours, just to point out again, like I do enjoy studying, so I was enjoying this process of studying, and maybe in a way that is self-care, but even if you enjoy doing something, you can still feel burnt out as a result of that. So I was doing all these things that I absolutely love doing, but I wasn't giving myself the time to reflect and live slowly and relax and have that space to actually look after myself in a way that I should have been doing. So I was getting all this stuff done, and I felt tired a lot of the time. I realised now that that was because I wasn't giving myself that space to just relax and switch off. Really realise how resistant I was to self-care. Like I just didn't have the right mindset on it. To me, it just felt like a waste of time. And I think that's because I wasn't differentiating between enjoyment and self-care. Because as I said, like the things that I was doing, like head girl duties and YouTube and studying, they're all things I enjoy. And so part of me was like, well, that is self-care because I'm letting myself spend time doing something I enjoy. But that's not how it works, I realised. Like you still have to have that time to switch off aside from that and do other things which are like able to refresh yourself. The journaling especially is one that was like my main form of self-care, journaling. But for the most part, I wasn't taking that time to myself. And then that changed, and I don't really know what the trigger was for that. But I was reflective. I think it came a lot with changing courses, because that really encouraged me to reflect on my choices up until that point. Just realised that self-care was important. I was spending time, you know, seeing friends and doing things, and I felt recharged and I felt creative as a result of it. When I took that time off, I felt creative when I came back. I kind of started trying to do that at university. It didn't really go to plan, and then over lockdown I've really been able to start doing that again. Mostly realised the kinds of things that are actually really good for me and my mental health, and the things I should be trying to do on a weekly basis. Okay, so I'm going to run through some things I am doing for my mental health on a regular basis. First of all, I took the time to reflect on the relationships which are meaningful to me. What relationships and what people recharge me? What kinds of relationships do I feel happy within? Who do I really enjoy seeing? I think that's good for self-care, because when you see people, it doubles as self-care, helping to build those meaningful connections that really mean a lot to you. Second thing is journaling, which I've already mentioned. Journaling and writing in general is something that I realise is so useful for my mental health. I feel like it's kind of a form of therapy, because it helps you to reflect on and be mindful of your thoughts and logically play them through. Also, I'm writing loads of letters, and I also see that as that's kind of merging together the writing and the friendships and meaningful connections. Third thing is prioritising time with family. Obviously, in lockdown, if you're living with your family, if you're self-isolating with your family, you have time and space to just be with them again like you used to when you were a kid. Now I'm trying to really make that time to appreciate that time that I'm spending with my family in a way that I hadn't done before. And then the fourth thing is giving myself time off. And I know this sounds silly because obviously it's lockdown or the easing of lockdown, and surely you don't have anything to need time off from, but I mean, I love doing YouTube, I love making these videos, I love connecting with people. But that doesn't mean it's not draining sometimes, and it can put a lot of pressure on you, always sharing things. And so one thing which I've started doing is taking time off from social media. So I did a week-long social media detox, and since then I've been trying to take one day off a week where I won't look at my phone or YouTube or Instagram, anything for the day, and I'll just encourage myself to be present and, you know, not compare myself to people. That's the danger of social media, you know, it's so comparison based. And also weekends, goodness me, I have started treating weekends as something so different with, like, I've never treated weekends like this before. Weekends have never been a time for switching off for me. Like, maybe when I was a kid, maybe before the age of like 11 or 12, but since then weekends have just been a time where I can catch up on schoolwork and work on extra projects and get stuff done that I couldn't get done during the week. Whereas during lockdown, I've started trying to separate that out and doing filming and extra learning and preparation for university, and also the work I'm doing with an organisation called Knowledge Collective. I do that during the week, and then at the weekends I have that time off to actually just be. I feel so much happier for it, and I feel recharged when I come back on Monday. I feel so excited to get back to doing work. So yeah, if you can take just one day off a week from doing work, I probably won't take the whole weekend off. I'll end up doing maybe like 4 or 5 hours of work over the weekend, but like for the most part it's time off. Okay, now I'm going to move on to physical self-care, because I've been talking about mental self-care, but I also think there are things you can do to look after yourself physically. When I was at school, I never did exercise. I was so resistant to exercise. I didn't like it. I did kind of see it as a waste of time, again, not gonna lie. I mean, I did gymnastics and trampolining for a while, and I really did enjoy that, but for the most part I just didn't really see exercise as a really important part of being productive and happy. I mean, yes, since university started I've got more into exercise, but especially during lockdown I have really recognised how important exercise is for my mental health and my physical health, and I just feel so much happier and awake and like energized for doing exercise. So every day I try to go on a run and a cycle ride, and also do some gymnastics and an ab workout, and just make sure I'm being active and not just sitting down all the time. This is just a quick thing, but on my runs I've also started not listening to an audiobook or music. I just let myself think, and I see that as one of the greatest forms of self-care. Second thing, healthy eating. I've spoken about healthy eating a lot on my channel, and that's something I have consistently been mindful of, like, for like 3 years. That's not something new I've started, but I definitely think it's an important part of self-care, making sure that you're having meals and snacks that make you feel good afterwards. Like, leading on from that, it's just key as well to make sure that you're putting aside the time to make yourself good meals, and particularly for breakfast, I love that meditative process of like making a nice breakfast. I love making my matcha latte in the morning, and the actual, ceremonial process of preparing matcha is really meditative. And finally, cold showers. I have been having a cold shower every morning during lockdown, and I love cold showers. I think they just make you feel so energized for the day, because I think self-care is being mindful of how certain things can impact your mindset. And for me, having a cold shower makes me feel energized. So I see that as a form of self-care, because doing a certain thing is helping me to reach a mindset and a headspace in which I feel happier. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you again to Unite Students for sponsoring today's video. Hopefully you can take some useful advice from this video too, like things that you can actually do yourself to help with self-care. And yes, I hope that you have a productive week.